The movie opens with not-so-smart Ed taking orders at Good Burger, but it turns out he's having a ridiculous dream and is late for work. At Good Burger, there's a line of customers who are waiting to place their orders, but there's no one to take them because Ed's running late. On his way to work in his roller skates, Ed bumps into as many people as possible because he keeps losing balance. Ed finally makes it to Good Burger just as the first customer is about to storm out in anger. The customer decides to stay and he goes on to place his order, but during the exchange, Ed makes a silly comment that gives him enough reason to finally leave the shop. Still outraged, the customer declares that he can't wait for Mondo Burger to finally open. Mondo Burger is a new spot on the block and it is set to open in 3 days. Everyone at Good Burger knows that Mondo Burger would be competition except Ed. Meanwhile, it's the last day of school at Briardale High School, and while other students in Dexter Reed's class are taking a test, he is taking a nap. As soon as the bell goes off, Dexter is excited to begin his summer vacation. Outside, Dexter and a friend of his walk up to a shiny car that belongs to Dexter's mom. She is away on business and Dexter plans to have a blast all summer. He also has no intentions of getting a summer job. At Good Burger, Mr. Bailey, Ed's boss, sends him to make a delivery to a customer. On his way, Ed slides across the street in his roller skates without checking for oncoming vehicles. In a bid to avoid hitting Ed, Dexter tries his best to turn his car around but ends up crashing into his teacher Mr. Wheat's car instead. An angry Mr. Wheat finds out that Dexter doesn't have a driver's license or insurance, so he makes a move to report Dexter to the police. In an attempt to avoid getting into trouble, Dexter begs Mr. Wheat to let him fix the car. Together, they head over to a repair shop where they're given an estimate of $1,900 for all the necessary repairs. Dexter is now in a tight corner, so he decides to get a summer job to pay for Mr. Wheat's damaged car. He immediately gets a job at the about-to-open Mondo Burger, but he performs woefully in the kitchen and is soon fired. Sad, Dexter ends up at Good Burger drinking good shakes. When Ed comes to his table with another glass, Dexter recognizes Ed, only he can't figure out where he has seen Ed before. Ed engages in a conversation with Dexter, who starts to talk about his problems. As Dexter tries to leave Good Burger in search of another job, Ed tells him he could work at Good Burger. After a little bit of convincing, Mr. Bailey agrees to give Dexter a job as Good Burger's delivery boy. Excited, Ed introduces Dexter to everyone who works at Good Burger, but Dexter pays particular attention to a female coworker, Monique. Just before closing time, Kurt Boswell, the owner of Mondo Burger, and 2 other guys walk into Good Burger to announce that Mondo Burger would be opening that night and it would take over Good Burger's business. True to Kurt's word, the Mondo Burger opening party was a blast and it was packed with customers while Good Burger was empty and out of power. For the next few weeks, Mondo Burger is booming and pulling in tremendous sales while Good Burger is out of customers. One fateful day, Mr. Bailey walks into Good Burger with a Mondo Burger and everyone is surprised at the size of the burger. Mr. Bailey is saddened by the day's earnings while Dexter tries his best to get into a conversation with Monique. When Ed puts on his roller skates to head home, Dexter suddenly remembers Ed is the reason he crashed into his teacher's car and the reason he has to work a summer job. The next day, Mr. Wheat gives Dexter a receipt for the work done on his car, and Dexter is shocked that the price has gone up $2,500. As Mr. Wheat leaves the shop, Ed joins Dexter at the table to have lunch, but Dexter doesn't want to be anywhere near Ed, so Ed makes funny faces until Dexter agrees to let him stay. While eating, Ed spills his sauce all over Dexter, who tastes the sauce and likes it. Ed says he makes the sauce by himself with his own recipe. Dexter invites all the coworkers, including Mr. Bailey, to taste the sauce, and they all testify that the sauce tastes good. Still impressed by the taste of Ed's sauce, Dexter suggests that it should be used in making burgers for the store. The boss agrees, and so Ed is given a new job making the sauce. Just like that, Good Burger is back in business, and customers are trooping in to have a taste of Ed's new sauce. Mr. Bailey is so happy to see customers in the shop, so he makes a deal with Ed. According to the deal, Ed is to receive 10 cents for every dollar sold. Upon learning of this, Dexter finds Ed in the kitchen and gets him to sign a contract that states that he, Dexter, would receive 80% of all the money Ed makes from Good Burger, while Ed gets to keep 20%, and Ed signs it without thinking twice. A coworker asks Ed about his recipe, and just as he opens his mouth to tell her, Dexter makes sure the recipe remains with Good Burger. Kurt is jealous about Good Burger's booming business, so he sends one of his workers to find out what's in the sauce. After work that day, Ed takes Dexter to his secret place where he does a lot of thinking, but Dexter doesn't believe Ed is one to think. The two get into a heartfelt conversation about Dexter's dad, who left when Dexter was just a kid. Dexter also talks about a yo-yo his dad bought for him. When Dexter stands up to leave, Ed thanks him for hanging out with him. The next day, Dexter and Ed head out together to make a delivery to Shaquille O'Neal, who is holding a press conference. The two are super excited to be in his presence, and Shaquille confirms that the sauce was good. Ed is later picked up by Kurt, who tries to bribe him into working for Mondo Burger before dropping him at the shop. Thankfully, Dexter is is there to remind Ed that Kurt is only trying to get his recipe from him. As Dexter makes his way back into Good Burger, Ed hands him a yo-yo that looks just like the one his father gave him as a child. Ed tells Dexter that he bought him the yo-yo because they are buddies. When Kurt hears that Ed turned down his offer, he invites Roxanne to help him get the sauce recipe from Ed. Roxanne walks into Good Burger and asks Ed to go on a date with her, which he agrees to. Just as she exits the shop, Ed turns around and asks Dexter to come with him to the date, saying that he can invite Monique. Dexter is shy and doesn't think Monique will go out with him, so Ed asks Monique and she says yes. During the date, Roxanne tries her best to get the sauce recipe from Ed, but Dexter finds a way to stop Ed from talking. While Monique and Dexter are having fun at the mini golf, Ed ends up knocking Roxanne out with a golf ball. After the date, Dexter and Monique are taking a walk when they confess that they like each other. Monique tells Dexter that Ed thinks he's a great guy, and that's the reason she changed her mind about him, after which they share a kiss. In an attempt to get Ed to tell her the sauce recipe, Roxanne slowly leans into Ed, but just before she gets close enough to plant a kiss, Ed picks her up, flips her, and throws her to the ground. Roxanne returns to Mondo Burger looking battered with bandages and crutches. The next day, Monique confronts Dexter about the contract he made Ed sign, but she promises not to tell Ed that Dexter's cheating him because it would only hurt Ed. Dexter finds Ed eating outside and tries to apologize for the contract, but is interrupted by a dog. Ed tries to feed the dog a Mondo Burger, but the dog refuses, so Ed gives the dog a Good Burger and the animal immediately starts to eat. Dexter figures that there must be something in the Mondo Burger that's putting the dog off, so he and Ed head off to Mondo Burger to find out. The pair walk into Mondo Burger dressed as women. They create a distraction and find their way into the kitchen. In the kitchen, they discover that Mondo Burger uses an illegal chemical to make their burgers so big. Kurt finds Ed and Dexter peeking into the kitchen, so he makes sure they don't get the opportunity to report Mondo Burger for their use of illegal chemicals by sending them to a psychiatric hospital. With Ed and Dexter away, Kurt and two of his workers sneak into Good Burger in the middle of the night. They find a pot of sauce in the fridge and start to pour shark poison into the sauce, but they are interrupted by old Otis, Ed's co-worker. He tries to call the cops but is overpowered by Kurt and his friends. In the next scene, Otis joins Dexter and Ed at the psychiatric hospital. Otis tells them about Kurt's poison and plans to make Good Burger customers sick. They realize they have only 4 hours till Good Burger opens and they have no idea how they'll get out of the hospital, but Dexter soon comes up with an idea. As the sun comes up, Ed changes the song on the radio in the free hall and all the patients get excited and start dancing. As the dancing continues, Dexter finds a way to knock out 2 guards and steal their keys. Dexter pulls Ed and Otis and they make a run for it. They make it over the asylum's fence, but the guards are chasing them. They steal an ice cream truck and Dexter drives as fast as he can to get to Good Burger in time to make sure nobody eats the poison sauce. Ed finds different flavors of ice cream in the back of the truck. Dexter begins to throw the ice cream at the hospital truck that's chasing them. Ed joins him and together they use the ice creams to cover up the truck's windscreen. The driver loses vision and crashes. 2 elderly women walk into Good Burger excited to buy burgers. Fortunately for them, Ed makes it into the shop just as they are about to eat their burgers and stops them from eating the poison sauce. Dexter walks in and explains to Mr. Bailey that the sauce was poisoned by Kurt, the owner of Mondo Burger. Dexter tells Ed that they need to go get a can of Mondo Burger's illegal chemicals so they can report it to the cops. Since they can't walk straight into the kitchen, Ed climbs up a truck and a pipe to the top of Mondo Burger and asks Dexter to follow suit. This time they make it into Mondo Burger without being caught. Dexter causes a distraction so Ed can get a can of the chemical, but Ed does something different. Instead of stealing the chemical, Ed empties so many cans into the meat grinder. Kurt and his workers catch up with Dexter and Ed, but they had no idea what Ed had done. Chaos begins in the kitchen as the meat grinder is producing extra large burgers. The continuous explosions cause all the customers to exit the building just as Dexter's teacher Mr. Wheat is parking his car. A few seconds later, the huge burger sign on top of the building falls directly on Mr. Wheat's car, totally destroying it. The police arrive and arrest Kurt for using illegal food additives to make his burgers big. Dexter then walks up to Mr. Wheat and pays him half of the money he owes him and walks away. Next, Dexter tears up his contract with Ed and tells him that they're still going to be partners. Ed gets emotional, hugs him tight and says, "Goodbye, my friend," but Dexter tells him that he's not leaving. The film ends as the two walk into Good Burger and all the co-workers lift Ed up and thank him for saving Good Burger.
Thank you for watching. It may be easy for you to like and subscribe, but it means the world to us. Please subscribe for more movie recaps.